Hello YouTube, Morkez Marihser here, and I won't be going into a huge intro for this one as I want this video to be faster paced and see how it goes. For what is apparently my biannual death battle video, I'm talking about potential runbacks for existing combatants. Instead of just the ones I personally want, I got in contact with people all over the community, plus a couple of friends, to get their perspective on ideas they've heard a lot of requests and interest for. Special thanks to those on the screen for helping me out, links to their stuff below. After pulling for a huge list of ideas, I decided to eliminate any character's third appearance because it's overkill, Season 7 and onwards because it's too recent, and anything brought up to me by too few people. I narrowed that list down to 20 and will now be giving you my opinions based on two separate metrics on a 5-point scale, personal hype and overall urgency. I tried to base everything on tangible reasoning, but this is still an opinion video, so take that with a grain of salt. And if you disagree with me, please leave your scores and explanations in the comments below. I'm curious what you would have to say. So without further ado, let's take it away.
Luke Skywalker versus Paul Atreides.
Let's do these in order of debut. Luke Skywalker versus Harry Potter sure was an episode. And while I'm eager to see a non-Force user, aside from Boba Fett, Luke is one where a potential opponent was all over the place until last year, where the reboot of Dune brought its protagonist, Paul, I tried to pronounce this, into the spotlight. I'm not the most well-versed person on Dune, its protagonist, or its versus potential. I'm also fairly cautious with Luke and any portrayal thereof, but this show needs more sci-fi series, and if Star Trek can't get on anytime soon, check out Death Battlecast 282 by the way, Dune is another worthy franchise. With all that said, my rating cuts right down the middle for both categories.
Harry Potter versus Percy Jackson.
If we can help Luke, we can help Harry. Percy Jackson is the most comparable young adult magical protagonist with the lightning theme this side of Quentin Coldwater. I've got nothing against the matchup itself, it's pretty cool, but urgency is where my rating splits. Percy's neat and all, but we don't need his series anytime soon. And of all the Wizarding World matchups we do have, Dumbledore vs. Gandalf should absolutely get priority, bringing Middle-earth to the show, another overdue series. Hence the split in my score.
Kratos versus Dante.
It's agreed upon that Kratos did not live up to his full potential the first time around. Dante might have, but it's been a while. Both characters have since matured and mellowed out in fairly similar ways, if what I've seen of DMC5 and played of God of War 4 has taught me anything. While I do see people promoting Kratos vs. Asura or Kratos vs. Gore the God Butcher, that's a more recent phenomenon. And besides, Dante should also get a good run back as well, at least a better one than Doomslayer. Since my feelings here are strong but not extreme, I'd say a double 4 fits nicely.
Spawn versus Ghost Rider.
From a versus standpoint, Lobo was an incredibly interesting opponent for Ghost Rider. Connections-wise? Yeah, no. Spawn also absolutely needs to come back. Much like Kratos, he was not used to the fullest. Ghost Rider was used well, but to keep things fresh, you could do a few things, such as using the Danny Ketch version, who has also spent time as the supervillain Vengeance with a giant sword and armor. You could also make an argument that Danny Ketch has more in common with Spawn than Johnny Blaze. What, you thought I was kidding about the Vengeance part? Look at this. Comics are weird.
Bowser versus Eggman.
You know who these characters are, you know their rivalry, you know they have armies enough to make this into a real fight that isn't just Mario and Sonic again, you know why it works. Top marks, make it happen, please, 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 please.
Spider-Man versus Ladybug.
I don't really have much to say on this one, as I have no feelings whatsoever regarding Miraculous Ladybug, and we've had enough spiders on the show that it's comical. Peter could use a more modern depiction than Marvel 1 sprites and Marvel 3 soundbites, and I appreciate how popular Ladybug is, but I'd be lying if I said I was excited, hence the score disparity. You'd think I, of all people, would have more to say about Spider-Man, but them's the breaks.
Ash Ketchum versus Yugi Muto.
I've been really focused on Ash lately. Can't imagine why. And the community's been discussing this a lot. The results are fairly self-explanatory, but that doesn't make me any less invested. And while I'm not as into Yu-Gi-Oh by any means, that doesn't make me any less curious how it would be handled. In fact, the how is exactly what I'm all in for. I am somewhat concerned that Ash could get flanderized. People are way too focused on his early days. Never mind the fact that he's been voiced by Serenade Cheney twice as long as Veronica Taylor. But that's minor in the grand scheme of things. It's an overdue rivalry and an overdue episode regardless.
Luigi versus Pac-Man.
While I don't dislike Luigi vs. Tails, there is enough reason to see Luigi get a run back, and the most popular idea happens to be against the very first video game mascot. The connections aren't terrible, but the questions all come down to, how would this even work? Do you composite Pac-Man? Do you composite Luigi? Do you get the shows involved? Can I take that last question back? It's a bit of a mess. Unless Death Battle figures out how to do this one and presents it well, urgency is gonna be pretty low.
Captain America versus Kamen Rider Ichigo.
This one's easy. I know jack all about Kamen Rider, but it's too huge not to show up eventually. And this is apparently the easiest character to implement. Poor Cap got abused in his first showing, so giving him the respect he deserves is all the more vital, even if he loses. And the more I hear about KR1, the cooler he sounds. I can't give it a perfect 5 on height due to personal lack of knowledge, but this is the next coolest thing.
Guts versus Claire.
So, have I seen Berserk? No. Have I seen Claymore? No. Can I list the connections off the top of my head? No. Having said all of that, does this sound exciting? Kinda, yeah. Guts vs. Nightmare is a very standard episode to me, and given the impact of Berserk, I think he could use a second chance. This is one case where despite my lack of personal attachment, the community hype for this idea has become somewhat infectious. Maybe it'd be higher if I'd actually seen either of these series, but for now, a double 3 sounds fair.
Darth Vader versus Obito.
There's a bit of a divide on whether this episode would essentially just be Kenobi vs. Kakashi 2, I Wanna Be Evil. I rewatched the original recently, and my answer is mostly yes. Setting aside how I personally find the episode to be coarse, rough, and irritating, I regret nothing, it already compares both characters to their evil counterparts aplenty, which is not a guarantee of anything for the result, mind you, but still. Darth Vader is great and absolutely deserves a run back after the disaster with Dr. Doom, but you need more than tone and result to make this more than just a rehash. As cool as this matchup is, it's not enough. Give it more time.
Wolverine versus Big B Wolf.
Once again, we have a character with a good but not perfect portrayal in Season 2 who is due for a run back, facing someone I know little about but appreciate from a distance. I suppose this episode is slightly less urgent by the nature of its origin, but it's a rich matchup and gives us a chance to show the side of Logan that doesn't just come from 90s cartoons and Marvel vs. Capcom games. I might be a sucker for those, but come on, it's about time we've moved on from there.
Yang versus Bakugo.
The most inevitable, unconfirmed episode ever. Does Yang need to show up again? Well, it depends on how they showcase her, and no, I don't mean she has to lose. I really doubt she would as well. Regardless, I just can't see the necessity of this. For both categories, the only reason I don't give it a 1 is the presence of King Explosion Murder. Oh, pardon, Lord Explosion Murder.
Mewtwo versus Sephiroth.
You all know exactly why Mewtwo needs a second chance. I'm aware this isn't everyone's cup of tea. Plenty of people prefer Mewtwo versus Black War Greymon. I like that idea just fine, but I've gained a massive appreciation for Sephiroth coming back as well. For one, there's been recent arguments that the result isn't clear-cut, depending on what counts. And two, with all the Final Fantasy VII Remake material, the character has gained a legitimate resurgence. Sephiroth vs. Virgil was great and all, but I think enough time and material has passed to try again.
Joker versus Green Goblin.
And I thought my jokes were bad. Season 1, this might have worked out fine, but now, not at all. The Norman Osborn of it all is enough to make this a bad idea these days, and looking deeper into his character, you can see far better opponents like David Xanatos and Kazuya Mishima. As for Joker, I get why people might be disappointed by his depiction against Sweet Tooth, but it ended perfectly for him. And there isn't really enough new material to work with besides 3 Jokers was a really stupid retcon. So, in a word, pass.
Doomsday versus SCP-682.
I am completely out of my depth on this one. I do get the idea of 2 monsters designed to be unkillable testing the extremes of said immortality. On a versus level, that's incredible. On any other level, I'm gonna have to pass. Besides, I don't think Doomsday needs to come back after such a strong first outing. Unlike the Hulk, the fundamentals of his character haven't changed since then. 3 times in a row. Comics are dumb.
Zero versus Alita.
I actually think Metal Sonic was Zero's best matchup, for the X era. There's still the Zero era, which got a blink and you'll miss it mention at most and offers lots of new stuff for the character. And what better for him to fight than the inspiration the Zero games wear on their sleeve? Battle Angel Alita. Seriously, read the manga, the Zero cast is almost pastiche. Not only does this matchup bring in the most influential cyberpunk series this side of Ghost in the Shell, but I haven't seen any clear consensus on who wins. And since we've had other Season 4 combatants come back for far less, I see no reason why not.
Shredder versus Ra's al Ghul.
This wasn't initially going to be in the video, but while I was prepping it, there was a cast covering the matchup and it's a really good idea, though not one where Shredder offers much new material, or at least not one where he offers relevant new material. That's where this loses urgency to me, as well as the fact that, is this an army fight, a fight just between the leaders, or somewhere in between? It's a good series of questions, but I'm no less interested in it happening eventually.
Raven versus Phoenix.
I'm a bit mixed on this one. On the one hand, Raven deserves a legitimate matchup that goes into the depths of her character in the comics, and Jean Grey is exactly that. Plus, I just desperately need us to get away from the Teen Titans cartoon. It's a good show, don't get me wrong, but the influence it's had on people's perceptions of the characters kinda aggravates me as a fan of the Marv Wolfman era that inspired it. It's why I dread Starfire ever getting depicted. But right, Phoenix. I'm down for the idea, but given that we just got Scarlet Witch versus Zatanna and the issues that episode had, I don't think we're in any rush, which ended up taking a point off of both hype and urgency.
Mega Man X versus Optimus Primal.
X has had a number of opponents flown over the years, but only recently have people come together behind Optimus Primal, and it's easily the best choice. The character connections are fairly close to perfect. Hero successors, one-time pacifists, fighting metal animals, screwed over by sequels, everything. The fight dynamic is also pretty good, since Primal is about the size of your average Maverick and both can take to the air. But how urgent is it? Pretty high, I'd say, as Beast Wars is a consistent fan favorite part of Transformers that has yet to show up. And X has more than enough material to carry his own episode without just repeating the Battle Royale. I suppose this season would be a touch too soon, but after that, that would be just prime.
Geostellar versus Blue Beetle.
Surprise! Title's got a 20, but I've got a blackjack. And speaking of poker, Star Force Mega Man. You'll get what that means if you played Star Force 3. Is this one all that requested? No, but this is my video, so na-na-na-na-na. This is one of my top requested matchups personally, like number 2 or 3. Obviously, I love it, but in terms of urgency, well, that's where it kinda plummets. While he does have a ton of untapped animation potential, Geo still got a good showing coming 2nd out of 5. Beetle is awesome, but he's not so in the spotlight anymore, at least he won't be until that movie comes out. Maybe there will be some synergy then, but they might just give him the Guyver, which I would also get, but with a few grumbles along the way. Hence the biggest score disparity of the video. But hey, it's a bonus I threw in because I'm me. And that's my Runback video. I hope you enjoyed this faster-paced overview of all these different ideas. As I said in the intro, if you disagree with my rankings or have your own ideas, please tell me yours in the comments below. Just try to explain why so I can understand your thought process. Just saying cringe or clown or whatnot doesn't tell me all that much, and I'm legit curious what you think. And to show me you were listening the whole time, please end your explanation with the phrase Crazy Town Banana Pants. I'll know what it means. If you like what you've seen, check out my rankings of the Marvel vs. DC and Smash-related episodes of Death Battle. Beyond that, subscribe to see what I do next. This is Morkez Marihser, signing off.